The world of AI video generation has been insane in the past few months. Just a really quick recap. OpenAI announced Sora earlier this year, which just blew everyone's mind. Its outputs were super realistic, very consistent, and very high quality. And in the following weeks, there was just kind of silence, and the existing video generators out there just seemed like garbage compared to what Sora could do. For example, probably the top ones out there at that time were Pika and Runway, but they could only generate really simple scenes like panning and zooming, as you can see here. They just failed to generate any high action or high movement scenes. But then gradually we started seeing Sora-level competitors pop up. Chinese company Shengshu announced Vidu, which showed quite promising results. It's not as good as Sora, but it seems like it could generate high action, high movement scenes. And then Google announced Veo, which I might say is very close to the quality of Sora. And then shortly after that, another Chinese company called Kuaishou announced Kling. And its generations are also arguably Sora quality. And I would say Kling is pretty awesome at making videos of people eating. I think right now Kling is the best option if you want to generate a video of someone eating. And then just last week we had Dream Machine by Luma Labs. The awesome thing about this is you can log in and use it right away, unlike other companies which just announced their video generators but they have not released it, so they might be just showcasing cherry-picked examples. But for Luma Labs, you can use it right away. And it is legit, like people are sharing so many cool examples on social media. But today, one of the longest contenders in AI video generation called Runway, which has been silent the whole time, finally announces their newest generation called Gen 3 Alpha. So let's jump in and look at a few examples. Here the prompt is an astronaut running through an alley in Rio de Janeiro. And this is pretty impressive already. Again, comparing to Runway Gen 2, it could not even generate people walking or running. It can only generate still scenes with simple panning and zooming. But now it's able to generate this astronaut running. So finally, we have high action scenes for Runway. And you can see the quality is pretty good. I would even say the clarity and the details of this video are slightly better than Dream Machine. However, you can see there are some noticeable inconsistencies around the edges of the astronaut as well as for the graffiti on the walls. It's just not very consistent and they keep warping in shape. So in terms of consistency, still not as good as Sora. Alright, here's another one. First-person view flying through a colorful, coral-lined streets of an underwater suburban neighborhood. I have to say, this is very good. There are, again, some noticeable errors with the fish. Some of them disappear and reappear. Some of them, their heads turn into tails and their tails turn into heads. You can see this fish here looks like it's dead and then it just disappears. I would say the inconsistencies here are definitely worse than Sora or Kling or even Luma Labs at times. Here's another one. Handheld tracking shot at night following a dirty blue balloon floating above the ground in abandoned old European street. Again, just some noticeable inconsistencies in the details. There's a lot of things that just keep warping in shape. But other than that, it's pretty good. Like, if you aren't really noticing closely, then it could be hard to tell that this was an AI-generated video. You can see it understands the physics of light very well. As the balloon moves through this corridor, the reflections of the balloon match the lights along the street. And then you can see the shadow here along the pavements of the road. This is very cool. Next one, the prompt is subtle reflections of a woman on the window of a train moving at hyperspeed in a Japanese city. Again, this just shows how well it understands the physics of light. The light reflected on her face aligns with what's in the background. And this is just very beautiful. I can't really point out any flaws with this. Alright, a few more trickier examples. Here the prompt is an empty warehouse dynamically transformed by flora that explode from the ground. Now, this is not an example that would ever exist in real life. This is similar to Sora's, pirate ships swirling in a cup of coffee example where there's probably no such video in its training data. Now, same with this example, there's probably no real-world example of this, right? Of flora suddenly exploding from the ground, but it's able to generate this very realistically. Again, this one is a theoretical example that probably does not exist in training data. So here the prompt is close-up shot of a living flame wisp darting through a bustling fantasy market at night. And wow, this is just very impressive. You could see the flame wisp looks very realistic, and this does look like a bustling market at night. Very, very impressive. Everything just looks very consistent, from the fruits in the stalls to the humans walking to the lights and all the details. Everything is just very consistent. Here's another one, handheld tracking shot following a red balloon floating above the ground in abandoned street. Very beautiful. I like the lens flare that's created by the sun. Again, you can see that it kind of understands the physics of light very well. You can see here on the edge of the balloon, that's where the sun reflects off of this balloon. All right, next one, this is a first-person view shot zooming through a tunnel into a vibrant underwater space. Wow, this is so beautiful. It seems like a scene from like Avatar or Finding Nemo. Very, very beautiful. Yes, there are a few like very minor inconsistencies with the seagrass, but overall, this looks very coherent and very realistic. Alright, this prompt is a wide symmetrical shot of a painting in a museum. The camera zooms in close to the painting. Now, I wouldn't say this is a particularly challenging example. I mean, Gen 2 was great at generating just simple zooming and panning videos. So like in this shot, there's no high action movements. So I would say this would be pretty easy to generate. It is impressive how it's able to not only maintain consistency of the paintings, but I would assume as it zooms in, it needs to kind of extrapolate the additional details of the painting, right? It needs to make it sharper and add more details to the face and the clouds, etc. And so it's able to do this quite seamlessly. Here is a really cool example. The prompt is ultra-fast, disorienting time-lapse or hyperlapse racing through a tunnel into a labyrinth of rapidly growing vines. This seems like the perspective of a field mouse, for example, running through a field of grass. Very, very cool example. And then here, first-person view, internal locomotive cab of a train moving at hyperspeed in an old European city. I'm really impressed by how straight it can generate the cables and the lines and the poles along this railway. As I've shown with previous image and video generators, they're not really good at generating long straight objects such as poles or cables or rails or guitar strings or swords, but here it's actually able to pull this off quite well. And then, the buildings are pretty coherent along the whole video. The dashboard of this train, again, very coherent. I don't see any noticeable warping in shape over time. Overall, a very impressive example. Now, the train tracks are a bit tricky. I'm not sure if it is necessarily generating these train tracks realistically. It seems like the number of tracks are not really correct, but that's just a minor thing I've noticed. And wow, it can generate macro shots very well. So here the prompt is zooming in hyperfast to a dandelion to reveal macro dreamlike abstract world. And well, I don't necessarily see the dreamlike abstract world, but it is able to zoom in to this dandelion at a macroscopic level, which is really impressive. Wow, this shot is really interesting. So here, this is an extreme close-up shot of an ant emerging from its nest. The camera pulls back, revealing a neighborhood beyond the hill. I would say overall this is super cool how it can transition from a macroscopic shot all the way to like a very wide landscape aerial shot of a neighborhood. Although something I would like to point out is I am not sure if those look like ants. Those kind of look like termites more than ants. And also the size of this ant nest and this hill seems to be out of proportion with the neighborhood. I mean, this patch of grass seems to span the entire size of like 3 houses. So it seems like the proportion is off. But the fact that it's able to zoom out from a macroscopic scale to a wide-angle landscape aerial view is just very impressive already. Here, the prompt is a tsunami coming through an alley in Bulgaria, dynamic movement. And it just generates this water beautifully. Now this isn't really impressive. I mean, we've seen other video generators like Vidu and even Kling, and even older ones like Refusion, generate waves and water really accurately. So this isn't necessarily a challenging prompt, but again, this generation is just super realistic. Everything just looks so consistent. Alright, next one. This is first-person view drone shot through a castle on a cliff. I really love this fish eye view, which you often see in drone videos. And this does look like a drone shot through a castle on a cliff. Very, very cool. Alright, next one. Internal window of a train moving at hyperspeed in an old European city. Again, very beautiful. As long as the details are blurred in the video, it's hard to point out any flaws or inconsistencies because, well, everything is blurred. You can see the water droplets on the window remain quite consistent throughout the entire video. So this is just very realistic to me. Thanks to our sponsor, Wondershare. Say goodbye to spending hours filming and editing videos because Wondershare Verbo is about to change the game. This is a powerful AI video maker that can turn text, photos, or existing videos into pro-looking videos in just minutes. No fancy camera or editing skills required. You can choose from over 300 lifelike avatars to be the face of your videos. Or if you want to use yourself, you can also create your own digital avatar and voice clone. Plus, you can use over 460 natural-sounding AI voices in 90 languages. And going multilingual is a piece of cake. With their AI video translator, you can easily translate and dub videos in many languages to expand your reach globally. But the features don't stop there. Verbo also has an AI scriptwriter that uses GPT to write your video scripts. Plus, there are plenty of AI video templates to help you create content even faster. Here are some ways creators are already using Verbo. You can create a social media channel around any topic like movies, travel, or horror stories, and then use Verbo to mass-produce content. You can also translate and dub videos into multiple languages using Verbo to exponentially grow your audience. Whatever your use case is, Verbo just makes it super easy for you to create videos. No more spending countless hours and tons of money on production.